From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon. We are here with pianist, composer, arranger, producer, Alan Toussaint. Alan, welcome to the Library of Congress.
Thank you. What a great place to be.
You know, there's not a book written about you yet, so I want to establish some basic facts. Let us begin. Tell us when and where you were born.
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, 1938.
And which neighborhood in New Orleans?
I came up in Gertown. Some call it Carrollton if you're not from the area. Those of us who are familiar with New Orleans, Gertown is fair to say.
Mm-hmm. Was there music around your house?
There was music around my neighborhood, and my father was a weekend trumpet player before I was born. But by the time I came along, he was raising a family then and was no longer an active musician. He worked on the railroad for 40 years. But I guess there was music in the genes there. My brother began playing the guitar early, but he didn't keep it up at all. My sister took piano lessons for a very short while, but I think she started out with a bad teacher. But I fell in love with the instrument right away, and it was love at first touch.
Was there a piano in your house?
Well, it was brought to my house for my sister to play. It was given to her by my aunt, one of my aunts. The ladies in my family thought it was dignified for a young girl to play the piano or violin or something like that. So my sister was 8 years older than I, so they were sending the piano there for her. But as soon as it touched the floor and I was able to walk over and touch it, instant gratification. So I was hooked.
So what was your favorite music when you were growing up?
Well, I heard a lot of whatever was on the radio, which we heard lots of hillbilly music, loads of hillbilly, before it was called country and western, boogie woogies, lots of gospel.
Who were your favorite artists?
Elliot Bradford was great during that day. Even the Soul Stirrers were out a little bit later than when I started that. I got around to that. But I liked boogie woogies a lot, and my mother used to listen to classical music on Sundays. She loved classical music. So I found myself, I found classical music sipping into my memory bank that, yeah, how nice. And when I started playing the piano, I thought all pianists could play all piano things. I didn't know they were specialists, like blues players, classical players. So I thought all piano players played everything I heard on a piano except what I hadn't begun to play them all yet. So I pursued everything that I heard.
Were there piano players that you tried to emulate?
Oh yes, all of them.
Yeah?
Yes, I especially liked, of course, one of the biggest jolts in my innocent childhood was when I first heard Professor Longhair. That just knocked my socks off.
Now, Roy Bird is a very special player.
Oh, yes.
Tell us what you thought was so special about him.
Well, it wasn't business as usual as far as the 1, 2, 3, 4. Syncopation, like a lot of New Orleans music, is loaded with syncopation, sparks flying everywhere. And not necessarily captivated by 4 bars and you have to go here and there. Professor Longhair was dancing to a different drummer. Also, he had some kind of Latin or some rhythms from the island all mixed up in there some sort of way. And some Jonko blues, as I learned later, which was quite widespread around New Orleans.
So did all the piano players learn Professor Longhair tunes? Were these standards?
Not all of them did, but everyone loved him and thought highly of him.
Did you learn his tunes?
Oh, everything that I heard him do, I tried. I didn't want to be like him, I wanted to be him. He had already filled that spot, however. But, oh yes, I learned everything, and I eagerly waited for the next thing to come, whatever record was coming out next.
It's possible that there may be people watching this or listening to this who really don't know Professor Longhair. Could you maybe demonstrate what it is about him or what it is about his tunes that you love so much?
Well, again, I say off the beaten path, and also he had what I consider, I call him our Bach of rock, you know, my Bach of rock, if not ours. Because I consider some things he came up with related to inventions. Like you can take that one set of rudiments that he had for a certain period and build a whole career on that. And then later on he comes with something else that is just as vibrant and is not necessarily an elaboration on what he did before. It's something totally different.
Could you demonstrate what you're talking about?
Well, yes, some things like he mixed up some semi-rumble rhythms early. And of course, he embellished on that. And as you noticed just then, when it was time after, ordinarily, the times you would go to the 4 chord here, but he wasn't ready, he had to still. So he took that extra time because he just wanted to hear that. So it wasn't about sticking to the rule that I played my 4 measures and now it's time to go. And I must say, some of the earlier blues musicians who played harmonicas and trees, guitars under the tree and the likes, they did some of that too, which I always found fascinating, because coming along, you sort of have to earn that.
I love how he sings also. He has this little, almost a yodel.
Professor Longhair, of course, he has the strangest yodel you've ever heard. Also, he's the only one who I've noticed that will, for some reason, feel the need to jump an octave on one word. Like he'll sing "In the Night." In the wee hours, baby, between midnight and day. He'll do something like that, you know? And I just, that was so surprising to me. I hadn't heard anyone think that music need to go that way. I just thought that was fabulous.
How well did you know Fess?
Well, I'm glad to say that I got to know him much better later on. As a child coming up, I didn't get to meet him until I was 16. And I only saw him for one day at a record hop. And he was playing a little spinet piano, which it was grateful to see. It was Fess anyway, but I would imagine that Fess should have the biggest and best that there is. And he was playing a very humble little spinet piano, which it was still Professor Longhair. I saw him that one day, and then I didn't see him for years. Well, I didn't see him for a couple of years, let's say. Because I used to go and buy records from One Stop Record Shop on Rampart Street when there were new records come out. And during those days, when you went into a record shop, they'd play the newest records out and let you hear in case you wanted to buy them. I was going looking for Professor Longhair and Ray Charles generally. But I wanted a certain record, and they didn't have it out front, but they say it's in the storeroom in the back. Lo and behold, who come out there with a box of those records Professor Longhair was working as a stockroom boy. And I was delighted to see him. It didn't dawn on me until years later when someone said how you felt about him being a stockroom person. I was just so glad to see him. I didn't care under any circumstances. I just saw Professor Longhair, so I was elated.
Now, so many people associate Longhair and you and and James Booker and any number of others with the New Orleans sound. Can you tell just from listening whether somebody's from New Orleans?
Yes, however, if a person is a good enough imitator, I'd know that's the New Orleans kind of thing. Because I must say that even in New Orleans, there's some who may do it better than others, the particular thing we may be mentioning.
So when you're listening, what do you hear that says, oh, that's New Orleans?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is it like an accent when you're speaking?
I imagine so, but I can't intelligently answer. I'm sorry. I wish I could. That's a very good question.
You are more or less self-taught. How did you learn to write and arrange?
By mimicking records. When I would sit and learn to play a recording, a new song that was whatever was out on the radio, I would listen to the piano parts as well as the bass, the trombone, everything. And like I said, my sister took lessons really early on, and though she didn't stick with it, she did learn the ABCs and early theory. And she was the first one who was able to tell me this E on the piano here is there on the page, and et cetera, et cetera. So I started learning to spell that way. As far as writing and arranging, that come from mimicking records and transcribing those arrangements off the recordings.
Well, how about the act of making records? You were one of the great producers.
Well, I began playing as a sideman in the studio on recording since I could play such a wide variety of styles. Like I said, I thought everyone played all styles. So I was just trying to catch up, really. But I was known for being able to play many different styles, and I was called into the studio to play sometimes like another style in particular, just because the people knew that I would be playing the music of the day.
So Dave Bartholomew asked you to play like Fats to play like Fats Domino at one point.
Yes, I must say that that was a bit after I had been already a session player in the studio, but that really, I guess, was a milestone for me. When Dave Bartholomew called me in to play like Fats would play, that I was taken a bit more seriously then. In fact, I took me a bit more seriously then as well. But I'm glad that it worked out as it did, and one of the highest compliments in my life was Fats told me, Alan, I couldn't tell whether that was me or you. And that was highly paid.
Speaking of getting paid, you're on so many recordings as either a pianist or as the composer or as producer. Did you ever have problems getting royalties?
Problems getting royalties. Well, fortunately, I got with a record company early on, and I was a standard person with them. So
Is this Minit Records?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I got with Minit Records, that was like a parent company over the activity that I was involved with. So that saved me from a multitude of headaches, I'm sure. So there has been some tunes that slipped through the cracks, but that was just the university of that period. Sometimes the way things used to operate, when record business wasn't taken as seriously as it is, there were all kinds of things people were doing to get records recorded. And sometimes it was taking some of the writer's royalty to put it towards someone else who they couldn't pay up front as much as it would have. And I know that may be considered frowned on now, and it would be frowned on now. And even though it's not a good practice, I've never done it, but I know that that used to happen. But I don't consider that any big bad wolf. It was the evolution of what we do, and that was just a period. But it got things done.
So you caught on quick. Did you always have your own publishing?
Well, I didn't always have my own publishing, no. The company I was with, Minit, had a publishing company at the time, which was called Toussaint, and maybe another company or so. So since I was with Minit Records, I was under Toussaint Publishing. So no, I didn't own my own publishing, but I'm glad to say it was close enough in the same house, under the same roof, and with the record company, that I felt comfortable with it.
Now, another mystery is that some of your great songs were copyrighted under your mother's name, Naomi Neville.
My mother's maiden name, yes.
Why was that? Why did you choose to do that?
Well, there was a period when I was about to change companies. It was about to change from one publishing company to another. And until they got through shifting contracts from one set of contracts from this desk to the next office and to the next attorney, I didn't want the things that I was doing during that present period to be caught up in that, not knowing the outcome, so I used a pseudonym. And Naomi Neville sounded like a most appropriate. I even used my father's name once, Clarence Toussaint, but that's not far enough removed to be considered a pseudonym. So my mother's maiden name was the perfect candidate.
And so some of your earliest work as a leader is under the name Al Toussaint. Was that your idea, or was there a producer there who decided to do that?
That was not my idea. The reason that was Danny Kessler, who was the talent scout who first recorded The Wild Sound of New Orleans, which was featuring me as an instrumentalist. He thought the name Toussait looked a little too ritzy or too classical. So he thought it would be easier to pronounce and it would look better if it was Al Toussaint. And that was fine with me.
So I'm assuming that in the late 50s, early 60s, when you're really in full flower there, the musician union in New Orleans was segregated.
Oh, yes.
How much did races mix on the bandstand or after hours among musicians?
Well, with the recording industry, it didn't matter at all because we were busy. We had integrated that right away. And clubs, there were clubs that, of course, you wasn't able to go in and socialize in certain other clubs, but people in the other clubs were able to come and socialize in our club, and many times that they would.
So you couldn't go to white clubs, but whites could go to
Yes, yes.
mixed clubs.
And that was, and even though that sound ludicrous at the moment, at the time we were having such a good time, we hadn't noticed whether anything needed to be done about anything, because we were surrounded by everything we liked, loved, where we wanted to be, where we wanted to eat, what we wanted to do. And for as the musicians integrated themselves long before then anyway, so.
And when did the union become integrated?
I'm not sure. We were 496 and the white union was 174. So it became 174, 496. Oh, that was somewhere in the 60s, I guess, somewhere there.
How much of the success of your early recordings was due to the song, the leader or singer, or the backing musicians?
Oh, that's a toughie. I must say that I think an artist has a lot to do with what's going to take place. And you put a lot of things around an artist, but it has to be in the artist if he's going to sustain. For instance, in Ernie K-Doe, Ernie K-Doe thought he was a hit before anyone else, and if no one else would have, he would have gone to his grave knowing he was a hit. So he had that personality, and when a person is that strong about front stage center, it's hard to hold a good man down. About other things, sometimes a song can be, and I can't restrict it to just my own, I just have to put on the thinking cap to say, sometimes a song is so good till whoever got it first was fortunate. Sometimes that can be the case, that the song is just so good on its own till you just like it by anybody, and fortunately you heard that first.
Give us an example of that kind of song. Which song comes to mind?
I'm Your Puppet. Even though I know we heard it by certain people, but the way that little song was, it didn't matter much who was singing the lead, the way it went. Some of the things Fess sang, it needed to be Fess.
Well, there are certain songs of yours, like Mother-in-Law, it got that hook.
Well,
Thank you. You have a great singer, yes, but there's nothing like having a great hook.
Well, Benny Spellman was the one who sang that hook. And he, even though I wrote the song after it came out and made the hit by Ernie K-Doe and all, he took the hook very seriously. Benny says the only reason why it had a chance in the world was because of the way he sang the hook, which I found joyous. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Now, songs like Mother-in-Law or Ya-Ya, or so many of these other great songs that you've written, how much did you have to coach the musicians in the studio? I mean, you have concept, and then how different is the final result?
I must say that I was quite rigid back then. Whatever I had imagined it to be, if it was days before or a week before, that's what I went in to get. And I usually got that. To my better or to my worse, I got what I was looking for. And I say that because later on I learned a little about serendipity that I didn't know in the beginning, which is sometimes a little gift comes through. But in the earlier days, I was going at something in particular, and I pursued it until that happened.
So you can be tough, or should we say disciplined?
Either one, yes, before I had enough sense to know that people were first, not music.
Tell me, what are some of your favorite versions of your own songs? Were they the hits?
Well, not always, maybe. I'd say, aside from Brown and Bryant, when he sang Performance, Dobie Gray did a version of Performance. I like that very much. You mean aside from the ones that I recorded on the people, like?
Yeah.
Okay. I like every Get Out of My Life woman I've ever heard, including Joe Williams, which I thought was really far out to hear. Such a debonair voice singing Get Out of My Life woman. Nearer, yes. Aguilera.
So as a songwriter, when you listen to a song, what do you hear? What do you listen for? What makes a good song?
When I listen from one already written or one I'm writing?
Either one.
Well, songs that's already written, I tried and enjoy them as if I wasn't a musician, which is not easy to do, because as a musician, as soon as you hear something, a part of you begin trying to learn it. And you would like to sometimes just enjoy it. Like Thick's new recording. I just like that to enjoy it. I don't need to learn it. I would like to say that I hear it just like, I would like to hear it more like a non-musician. I think it's very special to not be involved in the inner workings to hear the beauty of it without being a constructionist, a construction worker.
How do you do that? How do you detach?
It's not easy. It's not easy. But there's a lot of music out there. It's not easy when you're busy, like right now. I'm so busy working on materials. But there's enough music to get lost in it out there, if you will. But it's not easy for a musician.
Do you carefully hone every song, or does it come to you realized in your head from the beginning?
Oh no, it comes in parts sometimes. Sometimes just a plot. Like you'll see two people 2 blocks away talking with each other, and the way they move towards each other, it may stimulate some kind of situation. And it may not be what they're talking about, but it may trigger a little plot, just a couple of words.
So once you've got your structure in place,
A plot.
and the story,
Yes.
the arc, whatever you want to call it, how do you know when you're done? Do you keep going back and revising? Do you edit your work?
If you don't go ahead and record it, you might do that forever.
Huh.
Yes, but at some point you have to lay it down. But some things pretty much says when they're through, and others will never be through. Some things you may spend a lot of time on it and it just doesn't work. You could force it, but if it came through inspiration and not just out of your toolbox, because you know how, some things just won't, they don't really fit together. You can make it work just because, but then you'd have to say why.
I know you're a modest man. You know how good your songs are, but you're still, as a performer, you're a modest man. You're a good piano player, really good vocalist. You could have had a career as a performer, as a star, and yet you've chosen to remain in the background, behind the scenes, writing, arranging, producing. Why is that? Most people have the ego that wants to get out front.
Well, I don't have that. And I find it quite rewarding to be behind the scene in the way that I have been and enjoy. It's quite a comfort zone. It's like, for one thing, from the very inception of it all, in a way you're playing God. You're building a world according to you for the moment, how you think this artist should appeal to that audience, and what musicians should make this artist sound best of this music, and what song and what highlights should you bring out of this artist. That's quite gratifying. That's highly rewarding. And I mean before it sells, just when it's through, if you got anywhere near what you were looking for.
Finances aside, how do you measure the success of a song?
Well, finances aside, there's no way. The success of a song, far as quote unquote public, and what makes it a success is how many it sells and how many people say yes. And I have to put it that way because the writer can feel quite differently about that, the success of a song. One of my very best songs that I feel was most successful for as me writing, and it was better than me, was a song called Transition that I wrote for Lou Johnson. And I don't know if anyone heard it but he and I.
Could you play a little bit of that for us?
Probably not. It was quite involved. So I consider that a very successful song from the songwriter me. Sales-wise, nothing. Maybe the worst.
Well, Ellington talked about an artistic profit
Okay.
and not just monetary.
Yes.
And then when everybody would say, what is best? He would say, no, you rate tomatoes, you don't rate artists.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if I can change gears here, what was your personal experience with Katrina and the aftermath?
Well, Katrina, I thought was going to be storm as usual, hurricanes as usual, because I've been through all of them in New Orleans. Even when I was a very young child, remembering when they were all named after ladies, after women, because they just started adding men names to them fairly recently. But so I had been through all of the hurricanes and knew them, how you put your boards on your windows and you number them because you're going to need them again next year. So you know where to put them. You store them behind a garage. And this Katrina season, I nailed up my boards. And the day before it hit, I was encouraged by several to at least, if you're not going to leave town, go check in a hotel. And I did. I checked into the Royal on Canal and Bourbon. And I stayed there on the 4th floor until the storm hit. And the next morning I went out and it looked like a storm had been here, but if it's going to be like usual, in a day or two we'll go back. But of course we know that the levees broke and various other things happened that was beyond hurricane. So it wasn't business as usual. So 4 days after the storm, I made it to New York.
What happened to your house and your studio in?
Well, the studio didn't make it at all. The studio looked like it's been through a war zone. Fortunately, it has been taken over, I see, since I had been out, because my partner and I had dissolved our relationship in the studio years ago.
Is this Marshall Seahorn?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes. But it was lying dormant for quite a while anyway, but I had intended to always go back and do something there. But after Katrina, it didn't make it at all, and now it has become something else. My own house didn't make it at all either. And I've been shopping and shopping, but I've been in New Orleans so sparingly till I haven't had concentrated effort on shopping. But as of very recent times, I've been able to spend more time in New Orleans, and I'm about to get my living quarters back in order.
So what happened to all the master tapes at the studio?
They got wiped out. Yes.
That's tragic. Well, everything about that hurricane is tragic.
Now, some of my own personal masters on things I recorded was saved because my son went in and got some of those things, but of course there was a whole lot more than what I just recorded on me there. I mean, there was all of LaBelle's and Ramsey Lewis, Eric Gale, everyone.
So people, it's said that people change with their environment. So you've been in more or less in New York since the hurricane?
I've been based there, but I've been traveling quite a bit, more than ever in my life. Pardon me. And I'm glad to say that though it has not been my life, it's been quite interesting.
But how have you changed since Katrina?
I hope I haven't.
You've carved out a lucrative career, wearing many hats, but the general public may not know you as much as insiders and musicians. Is recognition important to you?
Not to me personally, not for me. I understand what it means to the record industry for whatever product you're selling, or for whatever you're selling in life. But as for me, the product that I have been responsible for, if it sells by whoever I recorded, that's plenty enough for me. Plenty enough.
So as...
Mission accomplished, you might say.
What is your mission?
When I'm recording an artist is to try and get the very best of that spirit to present a highlight that many people, that translate to many people. That's my mission when I'm producing someone.
But in life, what do you think your mission is?
Oh, heavens. I just like to play the piano. I like music. I like constructing songs, even if I'm not going to record that song or even someone. If there's not someone scheduled, I like waking up and writing and playing the piano.
Have you written a song about writing songs?
Yes, for Wayne Cochran, of all people, I wrote a song called Hey Songmaker, Make Me a Song, Don't Make it too short, don't make it too long, but try and make it good enough to be number one. I mean, that's pretty arrogant. That's pretty cocky, but when you're writing, you can take poetic license and get away with things like that.
So as the songwriter, the producer, the arranger, the composer, how do you measure your own success?
Oh, heavens. I don't. If I was asked to, and wanted to come up with something, by me knowing the inside story, I try and take the fifth. But I'm just not sure, because when and I've had peaks and valleys in my career, for as how we're doing, never how I'm doing, but we're. And when things, out of the hits that anyone has, there's always many misses. And being so involved, I had to not think what's the effect of hit, miss, because it would contort you too many different ways. So I decided to just take it all in stride, if you know what I mean.
I do. You do that very well. Take things in stride. We were talking earlier about rebuilding New Orleans.
Oh,
and you kept saying, it's going to be all right.
Oh, yes. Well, we were up for the task as well.
Since we only have a moment or two left, I wonder if you could just play something that expresses how you feel about New Orleans.
These days, that's pretty easy.
So you know what it means to miss New Orleans.
Oh, yes.
Alan Toussaint, thanks very much for taking the time. I hope to continue this conversation someday.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.